evening, everyone. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and I am here once again to declare the winner of the video response wars this week, which happens to be none other than Crazy Josh Cravey. Congratulations, Crazy Josh Cravey. You are the winner of the video response wars this week. I'm going to keep this video simple, short, and sweet, and the reason for that is this is a video response to a video response to a video response, and you get the idea. But first of all, I'm glad you got to see the new Star Wars film twice over. I'm sorry you ended up taking such a long trip. I know you enjoyed your family, and I know that was the primary reason why you went, but you also got to see Star Wars at the same time. But a 4-hour trip, I know what it's like to be on a 4-hour trip, and the trip itself, I know the destination's wonderful, but the trip itself is a pain in the royal tushy. So I can relate on that particular aspect. But anyway, I didn't realize that your local movie theater, the one that's closest to you, had such a small room and a small screen and the whole 9 yards. Kind of reminds me of the movie theaters that I used to go to when I was younger. Now, keep in mind, when I was younger, downtown had 3 movie theaters, and they were all single screen, but they had 3 movie theaters, and then on the north side of town they had something called the Northgate Mall, and in the middle of the mall they had a movie theater with 3 screens, and then not too far away from that was an actual drive-thru. Now the drive-thru was cool except for one thing. When you went to the drive-thru with me as a kid, we went in a station wagon. And have you ever sat near the tire well of the station wagon? Yeah, that is not a pleasant smell, I can tell you that, and it's not a pleasant place to sit. But the movies were cool, and the concessions were great, and the ticket prices were cheap, so there you go. Anyway, now the first thing that went out of business was the actual drive-thru. The second thing that actually went out of business was one of the theaters downtown actually burnt to the ground. The third thing that actually went out of business was the Northgate Mall triple screen theater. And the reason they did that is because a lot of the businesses in the mall just couldn't afford to stay in business anymore, and so they took a bunch of those businesses, tore them down, and replaced them with a grocery store. And it too eventually closed down, and there you go. So, anyway, about that same time, we had a mall built on the extreme north side of town, and that one had a 12-screen movie theater, and that's where we started going to the movies after a while. Now, again, 2 of the movie theaters downtown still exist. One is not used as a movie theater, but actually for stage performances now. The other one actually is a movie theater, and what they've done with it is they've turned it from 1 screen to 3. Yeah, they extended the theater out and they made it into 3 screens. Now, when I was younger, parking was kind of an issue downtown. Of course, that's not the way it is anymore, but back then, getting parking was a real pain in the royal tushy. But going to those theaters was kind of nice because the ticket prices were reasonable, the concessions were reasonable, the whole 9 yards. Of course, things don't stay the same. Now, one of the last movies I went to when I went to the one at the Extreme North Mall, okay, the one with the 12 screens, I went with a hooded sweatshirt. It was hot outside. It was almost 100 degrees outside. But when I went into the theater, it was like walking into a freezer. And for 2 hours, I froze my butt off. I am not kidding you. And the concessions were almost double the price of the actual ticket, the ticket price I paid for the ticket. Well, at that point, now you also have to keep in mind that where I live, there's a lot of teenage kids, and they're really nice and whatever, but you sit them down in a theater like that, you get a bunch of them, and it's a real popular movie, giggling and talking, and you hear the munching of all the snacks, and then on top of that, like I said, they just cause such a disruption that it's really hard to pay attention to the movie theater, to the movie. See what I mean? Well, of course, now that particular movie theater, all their screens are 3D. I don't want to watch a 3D movie. So this all happened early 21st century. I went to the movies for the last time. About froze my behind off. There was teenagers everywhere giggling and talking and doing all this other stuff, and like I said, the concessions were really high, and the ticket price was high, and I was like, man, by the time I pay $30 to $40 to this theater for one screening of a movie, I might as well buy the DVD for $20 and enjoy it on my TV. Now, I grant you that my TV, my television set, is 20 years old and does need to be replaced, but it's working fine for the time being, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it. See what I mean? So anyway, so like I say, these days I've become a little intolerant to caffeine. That's why I don't eat a lot of chocolate, and I don't drink coffee, and I don't drink caffeinated sodas. Everything I drink now is decaf. So you say, well, how do you eat candy bars when they're all full of chocolate? Well, they have white chocolate, and white chocolate doesn't have caffeine. There you go. So I eat white chocolate on occasion, and like I said, I drink caffeine-free soda pop. There's a lot of soda pop out there. It's caffeine-free, but it's full of sugar, and that's great. I love it. So I do have alternatives. When it comes to popcorn, I do like popcorn with salt, but I don't put as much salt on it as, I say, a movie theater. I mean, the movie theaters there, man, they pack. My gosh, you might as well have a salt lick. I'm not kidding you. It's that full of salt. Then you put the butter on there. That's just a little extra salt. Hey, let's go. I'm just not that way anymore. So, like I said, because the theaters are these theaters are so crowded, and people tend to. It's not just we're talking about, you get that many teenagers in the theater, especially with a popular movie. It's giggling and talking, and you hear the munching of the concessions, the whole 9 yards. It's quite a trip. Like, thanks, but no thanks. So now you say, well, why don't you go to the ones downtown? Well, the parking situation has improved dramatically. I'm going to investigate the new parking arrangements down there and see, because some places you can park for a couple hours, no big deal, but if say your movie runs not 4 hours, but let's say it runs 2.5 hours. Well, if you're parked for just 2 hours, you see, it can give you a parking ticket for that. So you really have to watch out where you're parking, so on and so forth. But I'll have to look into that. But the big movie theater at the extreme or north end of town, they still have not turned down their air conditioning. Everything over there is 3D, and more importantly, when they will blink advertisements on the screen before the movie starts, but when the movie is supposed to start, they will play commercials like you're watching TV at home. I'm not kidding you. They'll play like 4 or 5 commercials like that. Then, on top of that, they will play previews to about a dozen movies before they even get started in watching yours. Isn't that nice of them? So anyway, yeah, that's really kind of fun. Not. Anyway, so like I said, I'm going to try to investigate the theaters downtown, and probably go, if I ever decide to watch a movie again, I will go to a downtown theater. I will never again go to that place up north. There's just too many things that I don't like about it. It's not that it's a nice place to go to if you're young and you enjoy that kind of thing. I just don't. So there you go. But anyway, yeah, if you want a popular hangout, go over there. But like I said, I'm just not into that popular. I'm a little old for that now, so I'd rather just go to a local theater with a single screen. Or now the one downtown, it used to be a single screen, now it is 3 screens. Now the other one downtown doesn't play movies anymore. It actually does live stage performances, and I may look into that as well. Another thing that I noticed with the movie theaters is they have the Dolby surround sound, which is okay, but they blast the stupid thing. Well, they're trying to blast it over the noise of the teenagers. it's enough to bust out your eardrums. So like, yeah, I can control my volume here. Thank you. See what I mean? So anyway, you're kind of getting the picture why I don't go to a lot of theaters anymore. But anyway, it's not that they can have that experience if that's what they want. I just don't want it. So there you go. My particular preference. It's just me. Pretty much it's just me. So there you go. But anyway, I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you got to see Star Wars twice. I'm glad your theaters are, well, it would be a little more into my forte, a little bit more into my taste than what I have around here. Now, if I want to do a little traveling, I could go 30 minutes away, and they got some theaters just 30 minutes away from me that would be more reasonable. I've got a couple of theaters that are about an hour away from me that are a bit more reasonable, but I don't want to have to travel 30 minutes to an hour just to watch a movie. Just my thing. Anyway, I'd rather have more fun at a zoo or going to chase my Looking for Lincoln signs, you know. So, anyway. Whew. Well, this video has kind of gone on a little longer than I had actually anticipated or hoped for. I kind of wish that they'd bring in more local movie theaters into my community. Movie theaters that didn't crank up the air conditioning quite so much, that didn't have a massive 3D screen and all this other gobbledygook that's appealing to the extremely young, which I can understand if you're a young person that would appeal to you, but I'm not that young anymore, so I'm certainly not over the hill as far as that's concerned, but I'm not really all that young either, so that, like I said. Anyway, enough about my particular personal preferences. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you got to go in the afternoon. I know I kind of well, the way you had it displayed on the screen, I thought, well, maybe you're going at night, but apparently you went in the daytime. That's fine. That was my mistake. Fine. Anyway, I liked your little, caption or whatever the heck you had. That was kind of cool. But anyway, thank you for answering all of my questions. That was great and fantastic and marvelous. I look forward to all of the answers to all of the other questions I've asked you in all those other videos. And I hope you have a great week. Sorry this took so long. I had to load up all those other videos last night. Man, I had a long day today. I got another long day tomorrow and another long day after that. So, yeah. And I'm trying to get all this other stuff done too. So, yeah. Anyway, congratulations, Crazy Josh Cravey. You've learned a little bit about me. I've learned a little bit about you, and that's great, and that's fantastic and wonderful. I hope everybody here has a great week. I will tell you more in a future video. It will probably be either Thursday or Friday before you see more videos up, because I got a long week ahead of me. I have yet another story about TrackPhone. That one's not quite over yet, so let me get through the rest of TrackPhone, and I will tell you more about that one. In the meantime, I hope everybody here has a great week. By all means, continue sending me entries into the video response words. It's the best way to keep this contest going. Alright, I will tell you more in a future video, so I'd like for you to stay tuned.